Hello, and welcome to the We Hate Anime podcast. This is Moth here, letting you know that no, there is not a gun pointed to my head. I am indeed introducing our Patreon. So, the We Hate Anime podcast is over on patreon.com/wehateanime, where, if you give us money, we will continue to do what we've been doing for 2 years anyway. And if you don't give us money, we'll keep doing it, but Mike will have to ration out his trips to Chick-fil-A. Anyway, we have a couple of amazing tiers for you all. In reality, we only have 2 amazing tiers. The other one's just a shout out if you want to give us $1. For $1, you'll help fund us. For $15, we will talk about whatever you want to talk about. You want to talk about Cromartie High? I want to talk about Cromartie High. Pay $15 so we can talk about Cromartie High. And for $25, you can get a shout out. Wait, no, I totally read that wrong. Whatever, $15 is the shout out, $25 is the, we can talk about whatever you want to talk about. And right now, our only $25 supporter is Gotchi. Gotchi wanted to be mentioned as Gotchi, the Simp of Volume 1. Thank you, Gotchi. So remember, if you want to support us, head on down to patreon.com/wehateanime. Alright, that's out of the way. Perfect, let's move on to today. Today we have 2 guests on the show. Returning guest, Sudoku. Sudoku, say hi.
Hello.
Alright, and Sudoku's been here before, so no introductions necessary. The other member has been here before, but only on Moth's Misunderstandings, which I discontinued after I realized editing is hard. So everybody welcome Brother Ahab.
Hi.
Yeah, so Ahab, why don't you go ahead and tell us a little bit about yourself, seeing as nobody actually watched Moth's Misunderstandings.
Well, what is there to say? I'm me. I have an interest in motorcycles, guns, music, video games, fast cars, and anime. Mostly
yeah, so
mecha.
that's why we brought mostly mecha, which is actually why you're here on this episode, because we're talking about Gainax's most famous mecha anime of all time, Fooly Cooly.
Hell yeah.
Yay!
So, the topic for this week, it's really, really weird because, I don't know, I know I'm old. I know I'm ancient at this point. But when Mike was like, hey, let's talk about Fooly Cooly, I was like, but Fooly Cooly's fresh in everybody's memory. I remember watching it on Adult Swim a few years ago. And then I went back and I looked and Fooly Cooly came out in 2000.
Oh, it's fucking 20 years old.
Could you feel your gray hairs coming in at that point?
Dude, it's so frustrating because I watched like AMV Hell growing up. I don't know if either of you watched any of the AMV Hells.
I probably
am familiar
did, but I remember
with
nothing.
them.
Well, the first 2 anyway, because I think there's 7, and there's some that we don't talk about, so there's really only 5. The first, like, 3 and 4 pulled a lot of material out of Fooly Cooly, and I remember, like, watching AMV Hell and being like, man, I love AMV Hell, this is great. And then I look and AMV Hell came out in, like, 2002, or AMV Hell 3 came out in, like, 2002, and AMV Hell 4 came out in, like, 2005. I'm like, oh, yeah, I'm old.
Yeah, time's fucked up.
Dude, this is the weirdest time skip I've ever been in because Fooly Cooly aired at the same time that Outlaw Star aired. Yep. That I want to say, because Outlaw Star and Fooly Cooly are always the ones that stand out whenever I think of Adult Swim or Toonami. I'm actually like trying to remember what else aired in that timeline, and I just can't think of anything.
Yeah,
probably Cowboy Bebop.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, Cowboy Bebop
Cooly,
and Super
Cowboy
Milk Jam.
Bebop, Outlaw Star, Gundam Wing, Trigun.
Oh, they did all the Gundams. Yeah, Trigun, and they did all the Gundams because that's where I learned about G Gundam.
Well, G Gundam was several years later. Wing Gundam was actually the first one. That was the one that actually brought Gundam to the West.
And it has made Heavy Arms a staple in Western mecha love since then.
Yup.
What's funny is I think it's such an American thing that we love Heavy Arms. Like, you go to any other, like, I'm pretty sure, like, I talked to some guy in France, he's like, I like Sandrock. I'm like, who's Sandrock? Wing only had Death Scythe and Heavy Arms. I don't know what you're talking about, kid.
Oh, yeah, because, there was totally not one called, I don't know, Wing Gundam?
Yeah, no, I thought that was just, like, a clever title, because sometimes they went into space.
Oh, yeah, the one with the wings didn't stand out to you at all?
No, honestly, well, that was Death Scythe.
Well, yeah, I guess that's fair. There was 2 of them with wings. Although, Death Scythe with its, giant scythe and Wing Gundam with its wings and its transformation to a bird.
Actually, yeah. I'm gonna go off on a tangent here because this is something you know, Ahab. Sudoku, maybe not so much. I don't know much
shit about Gundam.
Yeah, if that's fair. It's so funny that we get Wing first because it's the same thing like when we got Final Fantasy IV, but we called it Final Fantasy II. So we get Wing first, which I don't even think it's canon. Ahab, correct me if I'm wrong, but is Wing canon?
It's canon in its own way. It was actually... You got to remember when it comes to Gundam, like you have different centuries, different like universes within the name Gundam, and Wing was a standalone from the most popular universe, which was the Universal Century era. Gundam's was called like After Colony era or something like that, and they're just basically a bunch of teenagers that get roped into being galactic terrorists. So take that as you will.
Yeah, that's fair. All right, but it's funny that we get Wing when Wing is like, not only is Wing not the first series in Gundam, it's not even like the second or the third. It is very much later plots, especially like even in the animation department, because we had 3 Gundams get animated before Wing.
Yeah, no,
I think Wing is like the third series.
Yeah,
it was like 0079, and then like then they did like a bunch of the stuff where I think Unicorn started popping up, right?
No, Unicorn wouldn't pop up until like 2016 or 2017, I think.
Yeah, so I thought Unicorn was more recent.
Yeah, it's definitely newer.
Recent, that's like 5 years.
I mean, this is how much I know about Gundam, because we know Wing, because we all grew up with Wing, and then I know Thunderbolt, because honestly, that's the only Gundam I actually respect is Thunderbolt, because it's the only one that tells even remotely an interesting story. And then I know G Gundam, because G Gundam is where Gundam should be. Like, Gundam Build Fighters and G Gundam is exactly where the universe needs to be right now. And then there's Iron-Blooded Orphans, which everybody fawns over, but I never really liked Iron-Blooded Orphans.
Everyone has told me that one's the one that's bad.
Well, that's funny is I've either heard that it's good or that it's bad. I've heard nobody go, oh yeah, no, it's a Gundam entry.
The thing about Iron-Blooded Orphans is that you're going to have people that like it, and you're going to have people that hate it, because the people that like it are the ones that kind of go for that sort of thing. Iron-Blooded Orphans is different from a lot of the other Gundam series. It's still very Gundam in its archetype about like how it approaches a story and like its politics and like world building and everything. But instead of it kind of being more military opera style, it's more of like Greek tragedy style storytelling. And that's where people get kind of messed up, is like some people go into it expecting a certain thing, and they don't get that because this one's trying to be different. Personally, I loved Iron-Blooded Orphans. I thought it was a fantastic story. It makes you laugh. It makes you hate everything. It makes you sit on the edge of your seat. And the designs are really just interesting and cool, and by the end of it, it's like I'm just sitting there going, "Holy crap! Did that really just happen?"
I don't know. I definitely appreciate that they tried something new. I can't acknowledge Thunderbolt without acknowledging Iron-Blooded Orphan, because they're in the same vein where Thunderbolt tried a lot of new things in the Gundam universe. Like it's funny because in my mind, Thunderbolt stuck the landing and Iron-Blooded Orphans fell flat. But they're both in the same vein. Yeah.
Plus, I mean,
like
you've got your love of that pilot who's all obsessed with jazz. So,
it's Leo, or it's EO. Oh, something is his name, Low or something. I mean, I definitely like him as a character. It's as somebody who's always been sympathetic to Zeon. It's like the guy I like is on the wrong side.
Oh, I mean, yeah, I don't know. It's funny because like
there's actually
Thunderbolt's part of the Universal Century, so when it comes to Federation and Zeon, like the later entries definitely start pushing you more towards supporting Xeon. But everybody always seems to forget that they did a lot of messed up stuff too, man. They dropped an entire colony on Earth and killed millions of people.
Well, isn't it funny?
That's the only thing
Ahab,
about Gundam
whereas,
I know.
Oh, is that they dropped a colony on people?
Yeah, that's it.
Isn't it funny though, Ahab, where only the good guys have ever won a single war?
Yeah, it's crazy, isn't it?
Yeah, bad guys have never won a single war.
Yeah.
Isn't it weird?
They need to get their shit together, is what it sounds like.
Actually, I remember there was one, because Adult Swim, or not even Adult Swim, Toonami had no idea what they were giving children. I to this day, it still cracks me up that they aired, like, uncensored episodes of both Tenchi Muyo and Outlaw Star on, like, the kids' blog.
Yeah.
But then they censored the Sailor Moon lesbians. Oh, happy Pride Month, everyone.
Yeah.
What was it, Jupiter and Pluto, I think?
Yeah. Oh well, they were still
No,
there.
no,
but
it wasn't.
No,
It
it
wasn't
was-
Jupiter. It was Pluto and Neptune.
Neptune sounds right.
It was like either it was Pluto and Neptune or Pluto and Uranus.
Eh.
But the one I do remember Toonami did do a Gundam series meant for kids. It was not meant for kids. It was one of the most serious stories they ever told. But for some reason they decided to air it for children. And it was the one where the kid was in middle school and his older brother was getting radicalized by the principalities, or like the Xeon forces.
Oh, 0080
And he
War in the
found-
Pocket. I immediately know which one you're talking about.
The one where his brother finds a Zaku and then just gets murdered.
Yeah. Well, he doesn't find the Zaku. He starts building it or like modifying or something. And
Yep.
yeah. Oh, dude, that one. Oof. That's a
That
rough
one
man.
had no right being on a children's block, because it is like it's just, you literally see a victim of propaganda. The entire purpose of War in a Pocket is to emphasize how bad propaganda is, especially for children.
Oh yeah, and you know, to kind of segue into Fooly Cooly, you know, I feel like that falls into the exact same line, because like there's so much stuff in Fooly Cooly that I had totally forgotten about or just glossed over back when it was playing on Adult Swim, and you know, I was younger and I just was kind of ignorant to the world. And then, you know, I go and watch it again and I'm like, oh, this was in that? What? They made this joke, they did that? Oh my god, what? Did I miss that?
There's so much Shota rape in Fooly Cooly. There's even more than in their other show, Evangelion. It's now I will let's let this get this is the first time ever I think I've watched something where I've had the ability to watch the dub and the sub, that I've watched the dub, because or the sub. I've watched a lot of dubs, and of course I've only ever seen the Fooly Cooly dub, so I wanted to see the sub for once. Sudoku. Did you watch the sub or the dub?
I've only ever seen the dub.
Okay. And Ahab, did you watch the dub, right?
I watched the dub, yes.
Okay. The older girl, the redhead, the one that was in love with his older brother, how old is she in the dub?
She's a high schooler.
She's like 17, I think.
Okay. So just to verify ages of all the characters.
Oh no.
Haruka is unaged. She's supposed to appear like she's 19 or 20, but she's decades, if not centuries old.
She says she's 19 in the dub.
Right. She's decades, if not centuries old.
Yeah, she's definitely not she's not a teenager, not by human standards, not by whatever she is standards.
So we have Haruka, and then we have his father. We're just going to go through the characters real quick. We have his father, who is 47 in the sub officially. 47 or 42, I always get those numbers mixed up. But he's in his 40s, and then we have his grandfather, who's in his 60s. We have the main character, who is canonically 12 years old. And the reason we know that is because he is in his last year of elementary school.
Yeah. I keep forgetting that Japan doesn't have a middle school.
They do and they don't.
Yeah.
It's, I think you go like, and in America it's different too, but I know it's like 3 years of high school, 3 years of intermediary school, and then you go to elementary school prior. So I just did this backwards. In America, we do it a little bit differently. I've seen schools where they do 6, 7, and 8th grade in middle school, and then 9, 10, 11, 12 in high school. And I've also seen 10, 11, 12 in high school, but that's very rare. That's like technical charters.
So like, because like they kept saying he was a grade schooler, so in my head I was like, oh, he's like 8. So I didn't know he was like 12.
No, he's 12, and a ton of horrible stuff happens to him as a 12-year-old.
As things happen when you're 12.
Okay, so let's talk about this real quick. Gainax did this. This followed End of Evangelion. So they did Neon Genesis Evangelion. They did that absolute bastardization of a movie, End of Evangelion. And then they did Fooly Cooly was their next big project, from my understanding. Because I think they did a couple of the redos, like a couple of the Evangelion redos, but that used so much footage from the show, I don't consider them, like, necessary.
I don't know. It gets a little weird with Evangelion.
No kidding.
Yeah. Fooly Cooly was like their next major thing.
Yeah, so we have Fooly Cooly was their next major project. It's a 6-episode microseries. All of the music was actually done by one band, and I remember thinking to myself as I was rewatching this, the Pillows did the entire soundtrack. That's why it's a very soft rock sounding. What's funny is so much impactful stuff happens in this anime, but it has such a soft rock soundtrack that even during some of the most epic scenes, like where he's swinging his guitar against a giant baseball bomb, it just sounds so soft. Like this epic moment's happening, but because it's a band literally called the Pillows, it's so soft and gentle.
You know what?
It's so good. I love it.
Yeah, I gotta agree
with the tone.
The music is what really shored it up for me. Like the animation, the art style, the story. I love all that. It's really good. But the soundtrack, like many things media, whether it's video games, movies, TV shows, whatever, a good soundtrack can make or break its attached media. And in this case, I think Fooly Cooly, like, they knocked it out of the park.
Yeah.
No pun intended.
Thanks.
So I've been having this soundtrack like on my playlist for the past over 10 years since I first saw the show. To the point where when I was rewatching it like yesterday, my wife walked in, like this was during like the ending credits. It was like, is this a song you always play in the car? I was like, yeah.
I by the way, I have to say this now. I owe you an apology, Pseudo. I thought you were schizophrenic. I didn't know you actually had a wife.
I do. This is true.
Actually, this is interesting because
with a married trio, I think. Right?
Yeah, I was gonna say I don't think Tid has a wife. I think he has a girlfriend. Frog has a partner, a committed partner, and then Mike is single by choice. He is what we in the industry call a volcel, something. But this is actually the married episode. So a bunch of married guys are talking about our childhood fantasy of having an older woman hit on us.
Yeah, my wife actually is older, so let's go.
Yep, my wife's older than me. I think Ahab is the only one with a wife younger than him.
Yeah, that would be correct.
All right, so this is the Two Gentlemen and a Groomer podcast.
Whoa. No way.
I'm just kidding. I've seen your beard. I know you don't groom.
Okay. All right. Okay. I got you. All right. Moving on.
Okay, moving on. Actually, I did want to, just talking about the soundtrack. So I believe the Pillows is a Japanese band. I'm not going to just look it up on Wikipedia right now to be sure.
They're Japanese.
I believe they are, but the whole time when we were watching this, because I actually watched all 6 episodes in the last 2 days, just so it was fresh in my mind. I just kind of imagined that this is, if we had hired Weezer to do the dub music on top of, like, we dubbed it, and then instead of having the Pillows do the soundtrack, we just, like, pulled Weezer in. We're like, all right, we need you to sing Beverly Hills as he's hitting that baseball bat, or that baseball as hard as he can.
I think it would be fitting if it was, like, I think, like, Bare Naked Ladies would be, like, the English equivalent to the Pillows.
No, I'm thinking Weezer.
I don't know about Weezer.
I don't think it would work. I don't think that there's an American band that immediately comes to mind as an analog. So I'm glad that they kept the original music in there, even if everything was in Japanese. While the dub.
This music is in English.
Yeah.
Well, I wonder, like, would Snow Patrol work or like Modest Mouse? Like it has to be a sad boy band, like the type of guy. Like you have to imagine the type of guy who'd like sit in the closet while he watches his wife with another dude. That would be the soundtrack. Like we have to.
I don't think that's the vibe, but okay.
That's the entire show. It's him being jealous of Haru having a different guy in her life.
Kinda.
He envies his older brother. He envies his dad at one point. Like, the entire show is a kid who doesn't realize he's being cucked because he's 12 years old. Tell me I'm wrong.
You're out of line, but... I'm not going to say it. I'm just going to move right on past that, and I'm going to jump... I'm going to jump back to this whole thing about him being 12 years old. The show in episode 1, it starts off with him basically going, my life is boring, this town sucks, nothing exciting ever happens here, and then not moments later here comes Haruka and just runs him over.
And actually, that's not even correct either. It's very much a childish interpretation of the town, because as you see throughout the show, there's a lot going on that he's just not noticing.
Right.
Like,
he doesn't care.
His brother's a baseball
apathetic
star. Yeah, like his brother's a baseball star. That's amazing for a small town like that. His dad is running a local scandalous zine. That's amazing for a town like that. The mayor is having a giant affair scandal. There is a huge medical corporation that just moved in and nobody's talking about it. And on top of that, he's getting hit on actively by a 17-year-old girl, and he's ignoring all of this because for some reason he's not the big hero right now.
Yep.
Like he's saying nothing happens here because he's saying I'm not doing anything.
Yeah. Yeah. No, that's an accurate summation. And
it's very much like early teen or like pre-teens like view of the world, which is what it's supposed to be. So
I mean, everybody's busy.
Yeah.
Everything is happening all the time, and everyone's busy but him. And it's his choice that he's not busy.
Yeah. And the funny thing is that even when things do start happening, even then, like at first, he's still just like, he's annoyed that there are things going on around him. He's annoyed that he's got this horn growing out of his forehead, that he's got this weird redhead that just showed up into his life all of a sudden, now lives with him, and all the things that happened to him, just even in just episode 1. By the end of it, like he's still just like, this place sucks. My life sucks. Like, bro, you just had a robot come out of your forehead and fight another robot. Like, that's awesome.
And that gets repeated at the beginning of episode 6.
Yep.
It's because Haru isn't there. He's depressed and sad.
Yep. You always need a Rickenbacker in your life.
Yeah, so let's set up the scenario for people. Like, this is so funny because if I was in middle school 4 years ago, and I was like, hey, let's summarize this for people who've never seen the show, everyone would be looking at me like, dude, are you smoking crack? Everybody's watched Fully Cooley. So here's Fully Cooley. Yeah, it has been 20 years, and we dug right into it. So let's start again. Fully Cooley was Gainax's next big project after Evangelion. Now, Gainax, I think it's like Studio IG and Gainax, actually.
Yeah.
Gainax worked on this project. The entire show takes place in a small town in Japan. The main character is named Naota, and they make so many puns with his name because he's Naota, and his favorite thing to eat is natto. Like, did any of you catch that?
I think so.
Yeah.
It's been a day.
His name is, his name's Naota, and his favorite food's natto. He is constantly being harassed by his brothers, and the funny thing is, she wasn't even his brother's girlfriend. His brother saved her after she set a school on fire, and she developed a crush on him. That's Mamimi. And then the titular character, the only character that carries over into the series we don't talk about, is Haruko.
Wait, is she in the rest of the series?
She is in Alternative, and I can't remember what the third one's called. It's like Alternative and Redraw or something.
Oh,
she does come back, and she's just as obnoxious and useless. Then the fourth most important character is Canty, which Canty is never truly explained as a character. A lot of times it's very heavily implied that Canty is the character that Naoto sees himself as and who he wants to be, but can't find the courage to become. And we see that when whenever it becomes a do or die moment, they fuse and become one.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And then there's his father, his grandfather, his classmates. The only one worth mentioning is Eri. And then we have a gentleman by the name of Amareo, don't even ask me to pronounce these names, who it's very heavily implied that he was Haruko's first victim while she was trying to obtain her goal.
Yeah.
Yes.
Eyebrows man. I didn't even know he had eyebrows. A name.
So, long story short, without getting into like the deep nitty gritty of it, a massive corporation that is intergalactic is trying to turn Earth into its next victim. They are basically trying to iron out Earth, make Earth smooth and boring and without any interesting aspects to it at all. Haruko is supposed to be preventing this because she is an intergalactic police officer. But Haruko don't care. Haruko has discovered a insane energy, an insane superpower, and it what is his name? I'm forgetting it right now.
Adamsk.
Yeah, she discovers a power owned by Adamsk, and it's very heavily implied at first that she wants to be with Adamsk, and then you realize at the end of the series she just wants the power. She doesn't even want to be with another person. She just wants the power all to herself. And we discover that the kid's mind, because it's pretty heavily implied because he's young and malleable, his mind is capable of creating wormholes to pull power from all across the universe. So that's the rough and short of it, is a kid has the ability to pull wormholes. A woman who is supposed to be protecting planet Earth is abusing his power to get a power from it. And all the while, a giant corporation is trying to destroy the planet, and nobody really seems to care.
Yeah. I would like to touch on Conti a little bit, specifically.
Yeah.
You mentioned that he's kind of the way the kid wants to see himself in the world, and like when he wants to be the hero and everything. You know, the first time that I had watched the series, the fact that he's got a TV for a head was lost on me, but going back and watching it again, it kind of clicked more. You know, it's kind of this analogy for how kids are raised with TVs these days, and you know, they can see and experience whatever they want through the TV. You know, so you put this TV as a head for the robot, and the robot can do all these crazy things. He can fly, he can transform into an artillery cannon, he can fight. He's just good at everything, and he's useful, and you know, that's what the kid wants. And you know, that's where Conti really comes into play. Like you said, like he's kind of what Naoto wants to be. You know,
yeah, it's like the TV itself is like his role model.
Yeah, well, it's funny that you say that, because the TV doesn't activate until somebody mentions his brother. So in the first, I want to say even the first four episodes, the main character constantly asks his brother for guidance, like right before something bad's going to happen. Either himself or Mamimi does it, I want to say in episode 2. They go, hey, you know, Nata's brother, save me. And sure enough, the robot activates, and the robot's able to give the kid the courage he needs to do what he needs to do. Conti does. But by episode 5, we really start to see Naota coming out of his shell. Because episode 5, Mamimi is basically asking for the brother to show up again. And Naota goes, he's not coming. Don't you realize it's me who always saves the day?
Yeah.
And that's when we and that's when the robot activates in episode 5. So that's when we start to see like that's when we see that the kid has realized his role and what he wants to become, and he no longer needs to rely on anybody else. Now, bear in mind, this is Gynax, so I could be talking out my butt and be just as accurate as everybody else because we're still arguing about Evangelion.
Well, Fully Cooley is specifically made to be completely open to interpretation. So
Is it?
Well,
I'm pretty sure.
Yeah, let's touch on that specifically. Their part where they're talking about what is Fully Cooley? What does it mean?
They do this multiple times.
Yeah.
And there's even a part where they make fun of people who read too deep into Ava, because Naota's dad is a weeb.
Yeah, he really is. He actually talks about like how Gundam ruined Mecha at one point, I believe.
Yeah, and there's a point where Naota says that he wrote like an essay about Ava and no one fucking read it.
Well, and like at the, I think it's the end of episode 6, he actually says Fully Cooley doesn't mean anything.
Yeah.
And they just tell you right there as the audience, like, you don't have to ask anything else. Fully Cooley doesn't mean anything, just enjoy yourself.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And
Which is funny.
I will say though,
it's a total flip flop to I think it's episode 1 where they go through the whole like manga style segment where like Haruko and Naota's dad and his grandfather are like all arguing about what it is, and they're like trying to get Naota to talk about it. No, come on, you're the main character. You're supposed to know this.
No, that's episode 6.
Is it?
Yeah. Yeah, that's
yeah,
what
they call back and do that in
I'm
episode
sorry,
6.
because the two segments are very similar to each other, and they did that.
Well,
on
there's
purpose.
a reason for that, and it's they actually end the segment in episode 6 by saying that it was too expensive.
Yeah. That's apparently there's a fucking nightmare to animate like that.
Well, and you got to realize, so one thing, just quick tangent, we'll come back to this point specifically. This whole anime is drawn on cells.
Yeah, it is. It's completely all hand drawn.
Imagine trying to do those manga frames with cells. Like that, I could recreate that manga sequence in pretty much any video editing software. I use, gosh, I don't even remember because I know Mike uses Vegas, and I haven't opened up my HitFilm. I use HitFilm. Like, you can open up any program, and the default settings, you could take manga pages out of like Naruto and recreate that sequence pretty easily. But this is 2000. We're still drawing on cells right now.
Yeah. It's
so.
Oh, and we didn't really talk about this, but I'm curious. Like, what's everyone's like experience with Fully Cooley?
I figure what's funny is I feel like Fully Cooley is somehow more up its own ass than Evangelion is, and yet I find it much more approachable.
I wouldn't say it's up its own ass. I think it just kind of like it just presents itself as like an open book, kinda, and it's just like whatever you get out of it is valid.
Yeah.
So, well, let me see if I can get. Oh, sorry, Ahab.
Well, I was just gonna say it's definitely supposed to be open to interpretation, and I think that with all the fourth wall breaking that they do, it never takes itself too seriously. Which again, it's a big contrast to Ava because Ava's primary thing about every character is, hey, every single one of these people has had an extremely traumatic event and they are all messed up. And then you get Fully Cooley where it's all fun and games and joking, and it has like a couple of serious moments here and there, or like a couple of epic moments here and there, but for the most part it's just kind of slapstick humor and just kind of poking fun at the mind of a child, if you will.
Mm-hmm.
I will say that I'm going to try to get an agreement out of both of you real quick here. So I would say there are 2 persistent themes in Fully Cooley where no matter what your interpretation of the show is, however you see individual characters, however you see anything, these 2 things are concrete and must be acknowledged. Are you ready?
Okay.
Ready.
So the first one is the show is about puberty and hitting the most pivotal point in your childhood where you're transitioning from kid to semi-responsible teenager.
Yeah.
It is a huge hit on puberty.
Yeah, a coming of age thing. Yeah, I agree with that.
That's something
And this,
like I got even when I watched this the first time as like a dumb kid. I was like, oh.
The second thing is that this is targeted directly at men. So what's funny is I don't think my wife felt this, and I don't think anybody's wife would feel this really, unless they were a lesbian. Welcome to Pride Month, everyone. Is your first unobtainable childhood crush. And I got to emphasize unobtainable because like you can crush on girls your own age, but there's a lot in Fully Cooley where it's like I don't know, Ahab, did you ever have like a teacher you crushed on or a girl that was like a couple years older than you that you crushed on?
Yeah, I think you know that's a pretty normal experience for most boys.
Yeah,
dude, I can tell you when it happened to me because I work with her brother now. This is funny. Are you ready? So Moth did Taekwondo. All right. My mother, she was sick of me being bullied. And even though she's like, you can never fight anybody, she was like, you should do Taekwondo. Which, by the way, martial arts to actually learn how to fight, Taekwondo's right down there with capoeira. Don't learn it to fight. It's useless. I don't care what Tekken says. I don't care what was that one anime that came out recently where the main character uses Taekwondo?
I have no clue.
It was the one that was it was the line tune that got turned into an anime. I keep thinking Shaman King, but that's not it. Now I'm like having a freaking stroke trying to remember. It was
God of High School.
Had some of the, yeah, God of High School.
Is that what that's about?
Yeah, Taekwondo is completely useless as a martial art. If you want to learn an actual good fighting style, just learn Muay Thai. There's a reason that if you go to any MMA gym on the planet, they teach you two things. Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu and Muay Thai.
Yeah.
So
Taekwondo, yeah, you're gonna get bullied even harder for trying to do it in a fight. So
yeah, because the first thing Taekwondo teaches you is a wide stance that puts all of your weight on your front foot until you have to kick, and the first thing anybody's gonna do is charge you. You are so off balance; it's not even funny. But yeah, so I was in Taekwondo, and by the way, I don't know if you guys have ever had this. We're gonna call them gis, the uniforms you wear in any form of Asiatic martial art.
Yeah.
That is very, very loose and wavy cotton, and if you ever pop a boner in one of those, everyone's gonna see it.
Oh no!
You're too tired.
This is going already.
All right, so I'm like 9-10 years old. Okay.
Okay.
So I went into Taekwondo at 8. I'm like 9-10 years old, and I'm gonna guess because I realized that I've just been a pervert since I was a kid, and there's nothing I can do about it. But I'm gonna guess like boys really start noticing girls at about 9 to 11.
That sounds fair.
And I was probably just an early bloomer. But there was a girl in. Oh, here's another note. If you're a girl and you're in any form of martial arts, don't wear bright colored underwear under a gi because the moment you do any stretch, everyone can see it. So you all can tell where this story's going.
Oh, no.
You'd have to do your morning exercise or like your early exercises before you did sparring and anything else. You'd have to do like basic South Korean yoga. It's a joke, really. I mean, Taekwondo was a joke, and I can't believe I wasted 5 years of my life doing it when I could have been learning guitar or piano. But I would sit there behind this girl who was several years older than me. I'm like 9-10. She's like 15. And she would always be wearing like bright red panties. And I'm sorry I'm talking about a 15-year-old girl's red panties here, but you got to understand, this is a 6-year age gap in her favor right now. I'm fine. I'm safe. And like I would sit right behind her, and we're doing all these stretches, and I'm just popping boners in this gi. And so what's funny to me is when we're watching Fully Cooley, that's all I'm thinking about is being 10 years old and being in this awkward situation. They're like, okay, everybody, the sitting stretches are done, everybody stand up. And I would like stand up at a weird angle, or I'd like try to tuck my little preteen boner under my belt or something.
Just had to stand at a 90-degree angle at all times.
Yeah, like, oh gosh, I got a stomach ache. This is your 7th stomach ache this month. Yeah, I know, right?
There's something in the water.
Yeah, guys, you get the Breva tap. Oh, fun fact about that Taekwondo. I found out years later, the owner got a divorce with his wife, and I never knew why. And it turned out that his wife was basically molesting some of the teenage boys in the class.
Whoa.
And like apparently like what he called her on it because he was a good guy. Like the owner of the Taekwondo studio was a really good guy, but his wife was like a scumbag. And I guess like he found out and he was pretty much like, I can't even look you in the eye anymore. And she pretty much filed an abuse lawsuit immediately on a divorce to avoid like infidelity charges. And so I was like, I always wondered why she would bring me into her office for like one-on-one talks.
Oh
no.
And like, well, like she would bring me into her office, and it, like their office had a bed because I guess the owner kind of like slept there sometimes because this dude worked super hard. Like this dude worked day in and day out to run this Taekwondo studio. But like she would have me like sit on the chair next to her, and she'd be like, "So I noticed on your form today your leg was a little stiff," and she'd like reach down and grab under my knee. And like I never thought anything of it because I'm like, "Oh, cool, I'm getting a private lesson."
Wow.
Yeah,
I'm learning a lot about you right now. Things are starting to make sense here.
I don't think we've gone at like an entire season on this podcast without me talking about getting groomed as a kid or something.
So speaking of pedophilia, Fully Coolly.
Oh yeah, no. Oh, sorry. So this girl, 15 years old, I'm 10. Turns out her brother is my coworker.
Oh.
So the other, I think like 2 months ago, him and I were working on an MRI together, and I'm like, "Hey, did I ever tell you I used to pop boners to your sister all the time?"
Oh my god!
Oh my god! It's good to know this is how you talk to people, and it's not just this podcast.
No, like we're sitting here fixing an MRI, and he's like, "Man, this is like the worst." Like I told him that there was a leak in one of the lines. He's like, "Man, this is the worst thing I heard today." I'm like, "Oh, I can make it worse." He's like, "What do you mean?" I'm like, "Yeah, I used to pop boners to your sister." And he's like, "Emily?" I'm like, "Yeah, the one who did Taekwondo. How's she doing anyway?" I'm like, "She's still hot."
Jeez.
I'm like, she's still got that ramen hair that I love so much.
I hope he never listens to this.
I really know, like, there's nothing worse than what I've already said to him. Like, all right, so Fully Coolly, go on, Sudo.
Yeah, let's just bring that one back.
So,
Sudo, are you okay?
I'm fine. So Haruka,
in a state of
right?
shock.
Oh yeah, so my first unobtainable crush was that girl 5 years older than me. So yeah.
We're talking about. So I wouldn't say that that's like universal, like a universal takeaway for Fully Coolly. I think it's fair. But I think the themes of like what it's saying about masculinity is way more prevalent.
It doesn't say anything about masculinity.
The dude's got big ol' eyebrows. What do you mean?
He's got big ol' eyebrows. That's just his character thing. That's his identifiable character quirk.
Well, no. There's a point there. So we talked about Commander Amaro, whatever. Eyebrows.
Amaro.
Because I keep wanting to say Amaro, and I'm like, no, not Amaro, like Amuro Ray from Gundam. Like that's a cool character. This guy, he's kind of a dweeb, but he's trying to be Mr. Masculine Man. He's trying to be Mr. Independent Man, and he's trying to portray himself as something other than what Haruka took advantage of, which was an insecure kid.
Well, and they also to note, it's very heavily implied he has a tiny dick.
Yes.
It is very heavily implied that he has a tiny dick. Also, can we talk about how much straight Shota rape is in this?
Yeah.
Do we have to?
No, because there's a scene, and my wife actually missed this scene, and I had to put it out. In episode 5, when the giant pillar comes out of the kid's forehead, all the women in the control room get a nosebleed.
Yeah.
Yeah, the whole they're all sitting there in awe at this thing coming out of his forehead. Yeah.
Yeah.
And let's also talk about the fact that his boner caused him to get his first kiss. Because he gets a boner and kisses Haruko.
Yep.
Like, what's funny is I the whole time I was watching, I was like, does Gynax just have a thing for Shota rape? Because that was all of Eva, and then it got worse with End of Evangelion, and now, like, the next thing they do is Fully Cooley, and I'm like...
I don't know if they show it in, like, a positive light in Fully Cooley. I think it's... Because he obviously... Well...
go ahead.
I said, like... Hold on. Keep going. My thoughts are escaping me right now.
No. It's what I've gotten as a bridge point between Eva and Fully Cooley is it doesn't matter how you become a man or who makes you a man. Just become a man.
Yeah.
Because
I think
in End of Evangelion he has 3 women, or in Evangelion he's got 3 women that could make him a man. He's got his mother, the clone of his mother.
The soul of his mother. We'll go with that.
Yeah.
He has his surrogate mother, your favorite woman on the planet, Ahab.
Misato.
Yeah.
Misato. Oh, man, I'm not remembering anybody's names right now. And then we have Asuka. Yeah. So he has 3 women that can make him a man. And yet he refuses to become a man, and that causes all the problems. All the problems after episode 14 are caused simply because Shinji can't get laid. Then, in Fully Cooley, it's the same situation.
I'm sure it has nothing to do with the fact that literally every time Shinji got in Unit 1, extremely traumatic shit happened to him, and that made him aversive to getting back into the robot. I'm sure that had nothing to do with it.
Traumatic shit like not getting some bitches.
Well, and that's the thing.
Or watching his friends die and, not being able to stop
and his mother's keeping him from getting laid. His actual mom's keeping him from getting laid, Ahab, because every time he gets in the robot, i.e. his mother...
It's a universal story.
Yeah, it's the most Oedipus story of all. And then, here we go. In Fully Cooley, there is no mother unit present, and this dude's drowning in puss.
He doesn't like it, though. At least not in the beginning.
That's kind of one of the underlying themes, though, is that Naota doesn't really know what he wants. He wants something, but all these things are going on around him, like Moth pointed out. Like, the town has constantly got stuff going on. And he's just either apathetic to it, or it angers him in some way. He's annoyed at things. This redhead moves in with him, and he's immediately angry at the sight of her.
Yeah, I would be angry if a redhead moved in with me too.
No, you wouldn't.
Yeah, I would. I'd be like, "Damn, I got a wife. Get out of here, you Irish crossbreed."
But if you were okay,
dude, every time I've been stabbed, it's been by an Irish woman. So like,
how many times have you been stabbed?
Or at least a redhead. Twice.
Okay.
Wait, no. There's a third time, and it was another girl. Okay, so like 2 of the 3 times, like Meatloaf will tell you that ain't bad.
So,
this is an episode of Revelations.
It is, yeah.
This is like, if you guys watch the podcast, I've told all these stories before, like getting stabbed on a cot in the back of somebody's garage apartment, like getting stabbed in the leg with a pencil because I made fun of a Filipino girl, and then getting stabbed by my childhood friend because I beat her at Frogger.
Oh yeah, you deserve that one.
It was the PS1 Frogger, which to this day is still the best Frogger.
The fact that you have opinions on the best Frogger at all.
Okay, did you play the PS1 Frogger? Like the versus level where you're all running like down the highway and like you just gotta dodge between cars. That's like a Mario Party minigame. It's amazing.
Okay, that actually does sound kind of base.
Yeah, it's hella good. PS1 Frogger like highway level is dope.
Yep, I remember it. It was good.
Yeah, see that it's the best Frogger game.
What were we talking
Yeah,
about?
I don't have a best Dig Dug opinion. I just have a best Frogger opinion.
What were we talking about?
We were talking about Pac-Man.
Oh.
So what's your favorite Pac-Man, Sudoku?
Championship Edition's pretty good. The first one. Not any of the other ones.
Did you ever play the barcade version where you can like have 4 friends and you all take an angle?
I have not.
Okay, it's like the table is it's on a table, so like the table's sunken. You can actually have your beers and whatnot on the table, and because the screen's protected by a glass table.
Yeah.
And each of you can take a wall and play Pac-Man.
That's cool.
Ahab knows what I'm talking about.
Yeah,
Pac-Man's cool as fuck.
I do.
So we were talking about the fact that Naota has the ability to become a man and actively doesn't pursue any of the acceptable options in exchange for the unicorn.
Yeah.
Yeah, there's also the part where like a lot of the stuff is kind of forced on him. He's not really presented with the ability to choose for himself at first, and it's when like in episode 5 when he starts getting angry and he starts getting egotistical, and he starts like getting angry when Mamimi wants to like call for his brother, and he's like, no, I'm the one that's here, I'm going to save the day. Like that's also the moment when he starts to actually fight for his ability to make the choice himself, and he starts choosing on his own to step into the limelight and like actually do something about the issues at hand.
Oh yeah, and can we also talk about the fact that, and this is probably something that a lot of, I wouldn't say like any well-adjusted guy would feel, but I hang out with enough incels to know like this is how some of them feel. Do we want to talk about the fact that none of the women are actually interested in him because of who he is?
Oh!
Yeah, that's true. That is another big thing about it, is that it's either his brother or his ability to manipulate the time-space wormhole craziness that Haruka is after.
Or because there's nothing. So the 3 reasons the girls are interested in him. So Haruka wants him because he's the conduit to the power she seeks. Mamimi wants him because she figures if she stays around him long enough, when his brother comes to visit, she can then cling to him. So he's literally just a signpost while she waits. And his classmate is interested in him because his life is so plain and ordinary compared to her own. She uses him for escapism.
Yep.
Yeah.
Also, speaking of just, oh man, there's so much charged sexual energy in that show. Did you guys get the point? I want to say it was episode 5 where she's sucking on a popsicle.
Yep.
And then as they start talking about all the cool stuff he's done, she just starts like deep throating the popsicle.
I noticed that and it made me uncomfortable.
Yeah, there is so many innuendos in the show that I just completely overlooked at first.
And then he says something and then she just bites it.
Yeah, because he starts gloating himself.
That's
she
right.
finds it unattractive.
Yep.
So it was so interesting that they were showing like how her mind was working right next to what was going on. It's funny, we've already talked, I think, for about 40 minutes about the show, and we haven't even begun to discuss the animation.
Oh my god. The first...
So...
No, I think it's the fight in the second episode where he enters the robot for the first time and fucking Little Buster starts playing. Is 15 or like not 15, like more than 10 years later after seeing it for the first time, I'm still pogging while watching that scene.
I think the scenes that I actually like the most are the ones where you don't realize, because we take a lot of stuff for granted right now.
Yeah.
So if this show was done today, there are a lot of sequences where Haruko's model would be a 3D render with very low detail on it to make it look like a 2D drawing. But in the very first episode, when she hits him with the moped and then she starts rotating in place.
Oh yeah, no, that part's great.
Like you would do that with a 3D model today. But back then, they had to draw her on every point of the axis, frame by frame by frame.
Yeah.
And then you're thinking about it again, when she's driving around on her knees, she's constantly rotating. So in those 10 seconds of animation, somebody had a mental breakdown.
Yeah. And, you know, it's funny, too, because the show actually kind of goes out of its way to point out when, like, those tough scenes for the animators happen. And I think that is one of them, like, when they collide and they're spinning around in the air in slow-mo. There's actually one of the characters makes a comment about it, about, like, how tough it is to do a scene like that, because they're all like, oh, I have to hold my breath through the whole thing, and but, like, you know, that's kind of them breaking the fourth wall to tell the viewer, like, hey, I hope you appreciated this, because this sucked.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, they do it a lot. They did it when they were doing the South Park reference. They did it when they were doing the Matrix episode, or the Matrix sequence. Like,
yeah, there's one sequence, I think it's in the third episode, where Haruka, Naota, and Mamimi are like hanging out at the house, and it's like a completely different animation style. It almost looks like rotoscoped.
yeah, no, they do that all the time. That's rotoscoped, and then there's a lot of sequences where they drop detail or they change the coloring. Like, can we talk about the fact that this show does not maintain a consistent color palette at all?
And it's
I feel like that was on purpose.
No, but that it is fully coolly. I was joking with my wife. I'm like, I wonder if they got the budget for a 13 episode show, knowing they were only going to do 6 episodes.
That wouldn't surprise me. This show has so much fucking budget.
Well, it just we really, I gotta emphasize this again. Like, in 2021, doing a lot of the sequences that they did in Fully Cooley would still be difficult, but like, I wouldn't say a couple of rookies, but I would say like a couple of people who just finished like their first isekai, could do these animations using 3D.
Yeah.
We're back in 2000 drawing on cells. Like,
yeah, everything was hand drawn. Everything had to be perfect.
It should also be said this was made at like the height of Gainax. Like this was right after, like this is like 3 years after End of Evangelion came out.
It really is. Even if the story isn't that great, and even if a lot of the characters aren't great, I would say this is like this falls into the weird Undertale category, where it has so much heart that it saves what is otherwise very mediocre.
Oh yeah.
The soundtrack, the color palette, and how they choose to do animations, you can tell they were just having fun. And that the fact that the creators having fun can come through to the audience so well is what makes Fully Cooley good.
And the fact that it comes through even in the dub. Cause this is one of the best dubs for any anime, I think.
And this is a Funimation dub too. That's what blows my damn
Well, this is
mind.
back when they were doing the good shit. This is back when they were doing like Cowboy Bebop and shit. Cowboy Bebop's dub's great.
Yeah, their localization team back then was on point.
Because I think they got the original director, like the original voice director, just come in and direct the English voice actors.
Well, it's funny because, and I'm glad Mike's not on this episode because he'd never let me live this down. While I was watching the dub and they were doing the scene where they were, I was watching the sub, and I was watching the scene where they were making a bunch of puns. And I know both you watch the dub, but there's points where they say a word and she'll say like an English sounding equivalent to make puns. And it made me think about the only time I think localization is truly necessary is when you have to retell a joke.
Yeah.
And so they do that a lot, and they actually did it in Dragon Ball Z as well. I don't know why this sticks out to me so well, but Yamcha, Tien, and Chaozu are dead. And they're training with King Kai, and King Kai won't train them unless he can make them laugh. And Chaozu and Tien make it work no problem, but Yamcha's having a hard time, so they make him tell a joke. And the joke is, what's the difference between a piano and a tuna? And it's that you can tune a piano, but you can't piano a tuna. And I just, that is the only time I think localization can be necessary, is where it's like, okay, they told a pun, and we just need to retell that pun.
Yeah, and they did
everything else. I would prefer for it to stay the same.
They do,
and they did that with Fully Cooley.
Yeah, so they do that a lot with Fully Cooley with a lot of the like references. Like one example that I read earlier is in the dub they reference like Crystal Pepsi, and in the sub it's just like some random like discontinued soda in Japan.
And then no, I'm trying to. Yeah, I think you're right. And these, I don't even. I know it's technically considered localization, but I feel like it's just translation liberties, which Mike would come in here and start screaming and be like, Moth, that's localization.
No, yeah, that is localization. That's the same thing.
I think the reason I always get mad at localization, and I got to be careful here because I don't want to like drag people down, is there was the Mystical Ninja localization that got in a lot of trouble when a fan he didn't localize it, he translated it word for word. And so obviously, I mean, you change the sentence structure a little bit because the way the Japanese do sentences is not the same. But he did the localization, and there's a character who in the Japanese version isn't trans. I think he's just a cross-dresser. And he actually doesn't do like the cross-dressing community or anybody in like the LGBT community any favors with his existence. And the guy who translated it just translated it perfectly. He said, this is what happens. And people wanted his head. And so like that's when I always get mad at localizers, when they don't translate things directly, when they don't translate things perfectly. And Fully Cooley absolutely did. And by the way, I don't know exactly what happened with the Mystical Ninja story. I just know the guy translated it perfectly, and he didn't localize it, and that's what got him crucified.
So, I am going to pretend to know what the fuck you're talking about.
I could look up the story right now, but it's not relevant. No. Mike will yell at me later.
Okay.
But yeah, they really nailed localization from the English dub to the Japanese sub. It down to the ages. I was impressed. That's like the number one thing localizers do.
Yeah, they like to. A lot of times ages. They age up character, or like they say they're older.
Yeah, they would say that he was probably 14 and the other girl was probably 16, Mamimi.
Yeah.
But then, like, you watch the show and you're like, he goes into middle school at the end of the show, and you're like, okay, no, there's no way that kid was 14.
Yeah, no. I don't even remember them ever saying his exact age.
He's grade 6 going into grade 7.
Yeah, so they make it obvious he's like preteens.
Yeah.
Yeah, he's either 12 or 11. And my wife pointed something out. I don't know if I agree with it, but she said a big aspect of the show is Naota is trying to act like an adult in a world filled with adults that refuse to act like adults.
Yeah, I think that's pretty fair and obvious.
Yeah, that's showcased pretty hard with Naota's interactions with his father, actually.
Yeah.
Like, he kind of holds his father in contempt for, what Naota views as, like, childish interests or behaviors. You know, like, Naota's always worried about his father embarrassing him in front of other people, and he gets mad at him for the things that he's doing, and, tries to distance himself from his father in a lot of cases.
Yeah, there's... On top of that, you could tell he gets frustrated at Haruka because she doesn't ever tell him what she wants. Like, Haruka throughout the show consistently lies to him or just doesn't tell him anything.
Yeah.
Like, and it's very much an adult game where, if she had told him, like, hey, I'm using your powers so I can get what I want, he might have shut her down. And so she was just acting on I wouldn't say a survival instinct because she crazy, but she was acting very much on a selfish manner and manipulating him perfectly. And I think he realized that he was being manipulated and he hated her for it, even though he wanted to bone her.
Well, see, that's a tough one because there are points where she tells him the truth, but he doesn't believe her. Like episode 1, actually, when she moves in and he asks her, like, who are you? What is this really? And she tells him straight up, I am an intergalactic alien. And he's just like, yeah, okay, whatever.
Well, oh man, do we also want to talk about the fact that they jump time around a lot? Like not massive jumps, like where they go days in advance or something, but consistently through the show, they jump a little bit forward and show you the end results of actions, and then they go back and show you what led up to those actions. They do it like 3 times.
I'm trying to think of any.
The biggest one is when he hits his father's clone.
Oh yeah, that.
Yeah.
That whole section.
Yeah, that and then once again they're changing the entire animation style just for one section. Also, I loved it. I don't know how they did this in the English dub, but in the Japanese dub, he's that one guy, Ramaro, whatever his name is.
Eyebrow man.
Basically,
Yes, eyebrows.
yeah, he comes in and he grabs the main character and he interviews him as if it was a murder mystery, like a murder sequence. And you don't actually know if it happened or not.
Mm-hmm.
Like, you don't know if that conversation actually happened or if that was for the benefit of the audience. But he tells him, he's like, I can't believe you hit your father. He's like, I didn't. He goes, yeah, that figures. You're more the type of guy to hit a vending machine.
Yeah, that's
and
exactly
then
what
at the end,
in the dub.
yeah. And then at the end of the episode, she tells him, she's like, you have to hit that. And just don't think about it like you're hitting a bomb. Think about it like you're hitting a vending machine.
Yeah, I think that's what they say in the dub, basically.
Yeah, it's very similar, if not the same.
Yeah, so the payoff is instant for that episode. But they do... every episode is very self-contained, actually.
Yeah.
Yeah.
There's very few... I actually wouldn't... Other than the central theme of the show, I would say that you could probably watch episodes 2 through 5 in almost, maybe not 5, but 2 through 4, you could watch in pretty much any order and it wouldn't matter because they're all self-contained.
Yeah, because episode 1 deals with introducing all of the characters, and that's pretty important. But after that, yeah, up to episode 4, everything's just kind of...
Monster of the Week.
Yeah.
I mean, they talk about things that happened in like episodes prior, but they're all pretty self-contained.
Yeah, and it's I just no, it's good. I actually had my train of thought get lost, and I'm not even sure why. Thanks to Doku.
Oh, you're welcome.
But there's so much that this show does right, and it's funny. It's not as popular as Eva for a lot of reasons. The biggest reason is it's not as long as Eva, and they're kind of reinventing the wheel with a lot of the stuff they do. Because Eva already did amazing organic motions. They already did weird, intricate plots that have to be like they literally. It's one thing when like they talk about the fact that like Sonic is an attempt to topple Mario, but Fully Cooley comes off as if Nintendo's like, yeah, we have a mascot. He's great. He's perfect. Let's take everything everybody likes about him and let's make him again and call him Sonic. And he's going to be Mario's direct competition. It's like, what? You guys already did everything that was good. Why are you doing it again?
Well,
like, I would say there's... Yeah, go ahead.
Oh, no, I mean, I feel like in regards to Fully Cooley, there is an element of that, but more in satire than anything else. Like, that's kind of a big thing, is that satire is a big driving force for Fully Cooley. Because, the moments where it's talking about Gundam ruining mecha anime, or just like pop culture references like Crystal Pepsi and South Park, like there's a lot of satire going on there, which kind of takes it back to the show never takes itself too seriously. It's very, very quick to just kind of poke fun at itself as well as everything else around it. As where with Eva, that is a very serious story through and through, from start to finish.
I'm just now.
Also, did you guys? Oh, go ahead.
I'm just now remembering the part in Fully Cooley where the dad just starts talking about Lupin the Third,
the episode 4 they go through an entire Lupin the Third skit.
It's great because he's wearing like a red suit. And it's like, oh, did you prefer the green? Did you prefer the Castro?
My wife didn't get that.
God, yeah. How do we pronounce that? Look,
Yeah, no, he goes through this huge thing where he's trying to emulate Lupin to get with a girl,
Yep.
and he's failing in the same way Lupin fails.
Yep.
Yep, it was great. I did not get any of this shit when I first watched it.
No, we're like 10 years old watching this show, and a 10-year-old should not be watching this show.
But alas.
It's, yeah, no kidding. Did you guys get the idea that the main character Nato was kind of an abuser? It was really interesting to me because he plays the victim the entire show. Like, he actually plays the victim, when in reality, he's absolutely an abuser. He abuses his father. He ignores his grandfather. He's a dick to the only girl his age. He's a complete monster to a girl who's emotionally dependent on him. And don't get me wrong, a 12-year-old should not have to deal with the emotions of a 17-year-old. But, like, he pretends he's a victim, and then anytime somebody pushes forward the effort to give him what he wants, he says no, and then he doesn't do anything to get what he wants. And so it's like he just wants to have a permanent pity party. Like, I want to be an adult, but in reality, I just want to have a permanent pity party and go woe on me and want everyone to feel bad for me. But the moment they do and make any forward actions, I don't like it. I go back into my shell.
Yeah, I think that's fair. And I think when I first watched it, I think I was in high school. I think, like, subconsciously, I think that aspect kind of hit me because that's kind of how I was in high school.
Yeah, it's Nato. I remember not liking the show as a kid because I didn't like the main character, and then I realized the main character is actually supposed to be despicable. Mm-hmm. You are supposed to like him the least out of anyone in the show, except maybe his dad and his grandpa, but they're, once again, you see two garbage men.
Yeah,
but one of them watches
anime,
so it's based.
When you put it that way, it kind of it made me think of Eva, because you look at Shinji and the way that he behaves, you know, he's just kind of there. He has wants and desires, but he doesn't really put forth a lot of effort to achieve them. And then when his life takes that crazy turn and all this stuff starts happening to him, you know, when people are giving him the opportunity to get what he wants, in the same way Naota does, he kind of recedes back into his shell and he goes, well, now I don't want to do it, you know? And like in Fully Cooley episode 5, when he's starting to get really cocky, thus the gun hammer to the back of the head thing, very, very obvious visual pun there, but, excuse me. He starts getting very cocky, he starts getting angry, he starts getting egotistical, and, you know, it's kind of the same transformation that Shinji goes through in Eva, where, you know, through repeated exposure to the same inputs, he starts getting angry, and he starts getting, you know, upset. He's starting to take control more out of anger rather than desire, you know, to the point where he's threatening to destroy Nerve headquarters in Unit 1, because he wants something, he has the power to do something about it, and for once in his life, he's actually motivated to do something, you know. And then Fully Cooley, you know, that same parallel kicks in where, you know, Mamimi's calling out for Naota's brother, and he gets angry and he goes, no, I'm the one that's here, I'm going to save the day, and he makes the conscious choice to let Conti absorb him so that they can fuse and go kick ass and save the day, just to prove a point.
Yeah, it's just to clarify, and I know this has been made clear for the rest of everybody else. The reason we keep comparing this to Eva is because not only are the shows similar in a lot of ways, they are literally made by the same studio, one after another. Yeah. That's like if I were to say, yeah, Gurren Lagann is really similar to Promare for some reason.
Oh, this is really weird that the Ford Ranger and the Ford F-150 seem to look very similar.
Oh, wow. For those of you who aren't very car savvy, the Ford Ranger is just the castrated version of the F-150. They're literally the same car until you get into like the Platinum or the Raptor. But if you drive a Raptor, I want you to know I think you have a small dick, and there's no way around it. Like, if you just gonna go out, you got me on a tangent here. But if you drive a Ram 1500, I assume you're an enlisted with an alcohol problem.
Don't they all?
Like, that's the thing. If you're enlisted, you're gonna buy two cars. You're gonna buy a Dodge Charger, or you're gonna buy a Ram 1500. There's no other option.
Hold on. There's the Camaro.
I guess the Mustang.
Camaro and Mustang.
Yeah, Camaro.
Okay, but if we take the Charger, the Camaro, and the Mustang, and I'll put them into one car, they only grab one truck ever, and it's the Ram 1500. And I have no idea why it's the 1500, but it's always the 1500.
Because it's the one the recruiter has.
I don't know. It blows my mind. Like, you can actually watch these guys. Like, I could tell when their wife has put on 150 pounds because they go from the Charger to the 1500.
Oh, I know.
And they've gone from being an E2 to an E7.
I live, like, close to a military base. I know. I know.
And, like, so, Ahab, I'm glad I have you on the... And I'm glad I got you on the... Let's break away. Like, have we really said everything there is to say about Fully Cooley?
The robot's cool.
I feel like we've covered a lot. I feel like there's a... We could probably start splitting hairs, and we could probably start going into the specifics of each episode, but as far as the surface level and core details of the show in general, I think we've covered it a pretty good bit.
Yeah.
Okay, so you live by the way, Pseudo, the military base you live by, is there a target like right outside one of the gates?
Yes.
Okay, all right,
every
perfect.
time.
Actually, the target's new. There used to not be one.
Payday loans and Target.
Yep.
So, actually, no, they changed that recently. You cannot have a loan office within like 5 miles of a military base, I think.
Oh, gee, I wonder why.
Yeah, no kidding. So there's a term in the military, and it really civilians should know this. Anybody who works by a military base should know this term, but it's called the dependa. And they're called a dependa until their husband makes E6, and then they're called a dependopotamus. And Ahab, do you want to explain this for me?
Oh, man. So anybody who's never been in or around the military probably has this preconceived notion of what a service member looks like, how they behave. You know, they come off as these super honorable, upstanding people with nothing but light in their hearts. And, you know, then you meet some and you're like, wow, these guys are idiots. I served, Moth served, we've seen it firsthand, we've lived it. You drive around the military housing and, you know, you get everything from the soccer moms who have a very overinflated self-sense of importance. You get the trailer park look, you know, you get the mom walking out in Cookie Monster pajama pants, flip-flops, and a tank top with a bottle of Jack Daniels in one hand and a pack of smokes in the other.
Can we emphasize real quick? The Cookie Monster pajama pants is universal. I don't know. It's because it's sold at Target.
What?
I am 100%.
It's probably sold at the PX too.
No, it's sold at Target. It is absolutely because that pair of pajama bottoms is the comfiest pair Target sells, and it is absolutely sold at Target. So it doesn't matter if this chick is 120 pounds, 220 pounds, or 320 pounds. She is wearing pajama pants with Cookie Monster on it every damn time. And generally, she's smoking Marlboro for some reason. I don't know why. Hipster chicks like American Spirits. These bitches like Marlboro.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, I guess it's called an exchange now.
It's usually either Reds or Marlboro Lights at that. I don't understand what everybody's obsession with Marlboro Lights is. Like, I feel like Lights is like you just take a piece of printer paper, you roll it up, and you light it, and just that's what you're smoking. That's a Marlboro Light to me.
Yeah. Sorry, Pseudo. And Pseudo knows what we're talking about, because, Pseudo, were you in the military?
No, but my brother was. And my dad was.
I need you to understand, there's a phrase that I've heard, and it's funny, I didn't hear this until after I left the Air Force, is the Air Force has more geniuses than any other branch, and none of them are enlisted. And it's It's so true, it hurts my soul, because I got into, and I've talked about this so much, I got into the dumbest AFSC. Your ASVAB score doesn't matter. Just know that I scored high enough that technically any job was open to me. That's not very hard, you just need to score 78 to get that. I got into an AFSC with an ASVAB score requirement of 33. My first 2 weeks of a 12-week training course was please stop raping women. If you have to rape a woman, get away with it.
Oh, no.
It's the Uniform Court of Military Justice gets way too many rape complaints from you guys. Please stop. 2 weeks. 2 damn weeks of a fucking 12-week program.
Yeah, the Sharp and EO thing. Yeah. Anybody military listening to this is gonna be like, ah! Like they're gonna have these vivid flashbacks to trying to stay awake during death by PowerPoint for weeks on end.
Go stand up in the back of the class, drink a liter of water. Hoobity. You know what? Here's the thing. And some of you can feel like I'm targeting you. If you want me to target you even more, imagine having 2 months where you cranked in like $4,000, and then after completing BMT, getting the first $5,000 of your signing bonus. Because when I went in, signing bonuses were gone. It was like $5,000 was the most you got on your first half. So you have $4,000 sitting in your pocket and $5,000, and the first thing you do is you go buy 3 pairs of Nike Jordans, blow $2,000 at a strip club in one night, and then you go and you get a 20% interest loan on a Camaro. So screw you.
We're calling out the boots.
I know this happened because I bunked with these assholes. You know which ones didn't do that? The married ones. Every single enlisted guy who wasn't married did this.
I'm glad my brother never bought a Camaro. I think he just bought an Xbox.
That's those like the antisocial ones. They'll like buy an Xbox or a PC, and those are like I'm kind of chill with it because you're stuck in this classroom for however many months you have to be here for your job. The guys who bought laptops, I got nothing against those dudes. They were smart. I beat Mass Effect Trilogy like 3 times in technical school. That's why I'm not buying the complete edition ever again. Like, they got it. You could buy the whole game for like $40, and I'm not doing that again.
I will probably do it one day because I have never played those games, and interested.
They are great.
It's the first game is necessary to set up the plot. The second game has the best story, and the third game has the best combat. So each of them are good in their own way. Oh, did you hear what they did? I didn't know this.
I was
for
like
years,
Metal Gear Solid.
So stupid. I got Skinner boxed. Or like I got Pavloved or something. Do you know hitting the run button doesn't actually speed up Shepard in any of the games?
Oh yeah, I've heard about that. Well, no, it's only in the first one.
Oh yeah, they changed the camera lens to fisheye and then shake the screen.
That's all they do. It doesn't actually change his run speed.
You okay, Ahab?
Well, I'm thinking now because I actually had been playing the Legendary Edition. I think
they just removed it in the first game.
No, they actually changed it so that you actually do increase in speed.
Yeah.
But in the original game, now that I'm thinking about it, yeah, we all got fleeced.
Yeah. So So just to round out the episode, Fully Cooley.
It's based.
Would you? Because every one of us recommends it. What are the prerequisites you would say for somebody to watch Fully Cooley? Because I, honest to God, think that you shouldn't watch Fully Cooley until you've seen Eva.
No, just fucking watch it.
Yeah,
watch it twice. I think like 5 years apart.
Well, okay, so I think Fully Cooley appeals most to people in our age group that grew up with like South Park and Toonami and Adult Swim and stuff like that, because it exposed us to the cultural marks that are in Fully Cooley and the stuff that it references. So, like, somebody who was born in 2005 or past that, they may not get it as much. You know, they may not enjoy it as much because they're not going to have the same connection to the pop culture references. You know, there's a generational difference there. But that being said, I feel like other than that, there's really no prerequisite. Like Sudo just said, you just go watch it. Just watch it.
Yeah. So I would say if you want to get the full experience of Fooly Cooly, watch Eva first. And they don't have they're not canonical with each other. Like there's no resemblance. It's just Gainax did Eva, Gainax did End of Evangelion, then Gainax did this. And if you really start to see a lot of similarities in the two once you realize that Gainax did them both and that they're just projects one after the other.
I would say...
So, for the best experience, watch Eva first.
Watch Eva. Be on the internet for 5 years to see all the discussions about Evangelion and how fucking annoying it is. And then watch Fooly Cooly.
It's really funny to me. And maybe because I didn't watch Eva until like 6 months ago or like a year ago.
I didn't watch it after I first watched Fooly Cooly.
Well, like, everybody's always like, oh, it's Asuka and Rei. And I'm like, are you...
No, they're blind.
stupid?
Misato's right fucking there.
It's Misato and what's her name? Akari. Dr. Akari.
Yes.
Like, or is it Dr. Araki? I hate this. One of them, his father is either Akari or Araki.
His father is
she's Araki or Akari.
No, so
yeah, so she's Araki.
I believe you're talking about the blonde doctor, right?
I'm talking about the same woman who voices Nico Robin, and you got to know how horny.
Wait, is it?
Yes, the same woman who voices Nico Robin voices her.
Base.
It is like that woman is the queen of Ara Ara. Her and the chick who does the Japanese sub for Cells at Work, the Mechondriite or something, the freaking maid outfit ass white blood cell with a machete.
I don't know what you're talking about, but I will watch the show.
Her and so Nico Robin's voice actress and her voice actress are the queens of like older women. But yeah, so watch Fooly Cooly. We do have some questions. These were just general questions thrown out to us. Tid thought he was clever and wanted to ask us all, if you were to take a book or book series and give it an anime adaptation, what would you recommend?
Hold on. I gotta look at what these are called real quick. The Rift War Saga.
I mean, the Rift Wars.
Yep, Rift War Saga. There we go.
Sci-fi or fantasy?
That's fantasy.
Okay. That wouldn't happen to be written by Salvador, was it? Good. If anybody ever says anything R.A. Salvador positive on this podcast, I'm suplexing
it's
them off the
Raymond E. Feist.
Because R.A. Salvador is responsible for everyone I wanted to beat up in high school.
He sounds good.
And for those of you who aren't getting the reference, he wrote Drizzt.
I don't read books because I have ADHD and it makes it hard to read books. But Rift War Saga is great. Read it. Or make an anime on it.
Just for the pure hilarity of it, I would like to see an anime adaptation of Ernest Hemingway's The Old Man and the Sea. Because think about how over the top anime can be. Like, especially when you start talking about something like JoJo's Bizarre Adventure or something where like they are purposely over the top. Now apply that to the story of The Old Man and the Sea. And think about how epic that would be.
I'm sitting here thinking about there's an anime that did that fairly recently, not Old Man and the Sea, but they took like a very boring American novel and basically retold it beat for beat. In an anime, but like you didn't realize it because of how over the top everything was. And I want to say they did it with Moby Dick, but I can't remember. Like they've done that before.
Whoa! Did you just say Moby Dick is boring?
Okay, Moby Dick isn't boring if you understand the context of everything that's happening, but it comes across as like a very biblical book, where it's just like biblical references get thrown into a whale hunt.
I mean, the whale hunt is kind of secondary to all of the things going on, but yeah. Okay, I'll give you that.
Yeah. For me, I love BattleTech. Like the Grey Death Legion. There's a trilogy that everybody loves. That's like the entry level. If you want to get into BattleTech, you get into the Grey Death Legion. That's the book series that needs an anime adaptation. I don't give a about the clan wars. The clan invasion was stupid. I mean, it's good. It progressed the plot, but like the clan invasion and 3025 get talked to death. Let's move onward. Let's move into the Jihad. Let's move into the O-Clan era. Let's move into the Dark Age. Please stop doing 3025 and stop doing the clan invasion. Like, you have the freaking Civil War. Do that. All of them. The second question, and Ahab, you're gonna hate this question because you and I are in the same Discords.
Oh boy.
What VTuber do you simp for?
Who asked that question? Who asked that question?
It wasn't anybody from our Discord, Ahab.
Oh. Well,
I can tell you know.
I want to bully them, but I can't now.
You have to give an answer.
No. I mean, here's how I see it, okay? I can tell you my favorite basketball team. I can tell you my favorite baseball team, my favorite hockey team. I have not seen a single one of their games. I just had to pick one so that people leave me alone when they ask me that question. It's, hey, I like the Charlotte Hornets. I'm well aware they don't exist anymore, but they do an NBA Jam, so shut up. Hey, I love the Minnesota Vikings. I'm aware they suck and they haven't been good for decades, but they were really nice in NFL Blitz. Hey, I like the Red Wings. No, it's the Ducks. I like the Ducks because Disney made a cool cartoon about them. Like, so, my favorite VTuber is Toa because she has a really good voice. That's it. Fair. The end.
I have a real answer.
What about?
I don't think I have an answer for that one because I don't.
We are in a Discord that simps for Amelia.
Based.
Who would you say they simp for more? Would you say it's Amelia or the frog? Or not the frog, the shark?
Guar's great.
I think they're kind of equal right now, as far as I can tell, because I guess they did like a collaboration recently.
Yeah, it was the dragon for a long time because she opposed China.
Based,
and then it just. I know more about VTubers than I have any right to, and I despise them. Like. And it's funny is I can't go on Twitter and actively talk about how much I hate VTubers because I actually have a lot of mutuals who are trying to get a VTuber career. But like, I need you to understand as a person who used to be ugly, who turned himself around and got really attractive, the idea of people being popular hiding behind a 3D hologram would have been great for me 10 years ago. Now it just frustrates me. Like, I'm hot now. And now the cool thing is to be a person hidden behind a hot avatar.
Yeah, well, I mean, there is the idea that some of the guys in the Discord we're in together that, you know, they want me to do a VTuber, but they want me to be like an orc. You know, Ahab.
Yeah, no, I always get tagged. I always get tagged whenever that Moth VTuber comes up. I really appreciate her rig. I'm really glad she turned down HoloLive because she wanted to keep her persona. And apparently, like, you have to surrender your persona to HoloLive as part of the contract. Yep. But I need you to, not you guys, but like, I need people to understand. I like her as an artist. I don't care about VTubers. I don't watch streamers. I don't watch VTubers. Like, I just don't. I have better things to do with my life than watch somebody else.
I like Donners. Yeah. I think she's funny.
You're out. The only thing I've seen from Nyanners is the Chug Jug.
Yeah, she's great.
Great. All right, so there's your answers. None of us give a rat's ass about HoloLivers or VTubers.
That's not true. There's two of us. Two of us don't.
I don't care. All right, I'm telling Mike you're kicked from the podcast.
Mike will agree with me.
We're bullying Sudoku after this.
So that's it. Does anybody have anything they want to plug?
Via Sudoku, you can follow me at Sudoku FGC on Twitter, or you can follow me on Twitch at twitch.tv/Sudoku5. I stream sometimes.
And Ahab is just going to tell us about Savage Company.
Yeah. If you play 5th edition Dungeons & Dragons or Pathfinder 1st edition, go check out Savage Company. The campaign setting and all of its subsequent books are very epic. They're very awesome. It's everything you could possibly want to add to your table and more. Savage Company, go check it out.
I will. Don't consider this an endorsement because I don't actually play tabletop games all that much. But I will say I like the direction Machines of War has gone in. And I like the fact that your guys has completed the Kickstarter and are doing a lot of 3D STLs so that people can actually play their game on an epic scale.
Yeah. Removing myself as one of the content creators for it and looking at it from a third-person perspective, I think that it was the right move. And it's gonna give people so much more immersion and so much more care when they can, make their models and actually physically paint them and like have tangible things attached to the game, in the same way that BattleTech or 40K does. That alone is a big component. So I'm super excited about it.
Yep, so that's the plug. I have to end the plug before Mike yells at me. All right, well, that was it. Thank you, Pseudo. Thank you for Ahab. This has been the Married Not Volcel podcast. See you next time.
Later.